Good morning everyone, this is John with Gun.Deals. Today we're going to be talking about the Taurus GX4 Carry, a slim trim 9mm with good capacity and an affordable price. But is it any good? Before we get into that, go ahead and hit the like button like it owes you money. It helps the channel out greatly. Now, full disclosure, I have no relationship with Taurus. I paid my own money, about 300 monies, for the GX4 Carry at my local projectile dispensary. Now, if you aren't familiar with the G4 lineup from Taurus, the G4s are their newest models. They come in a few different sizes. I've tried the G2C and G3C in the past, and they were both fine for the low asking price. The more modern GX4 Carry model we have here is a slim 1.5 stack design, but has the longer 15 round capacity magazines and frame. This model also has their T.O.R.O optics mounting system, which we'll get into a little later. Starting off at the top, we have a white dot front sight and a blacked out serrated rear sight. It's a very pedestrian setup, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And of note, the sights were regulated well enough from the factory. The steel slide has forward and rear slide serrations for your tactical press checks and over-the-top reloads. The barrel is a 3.7-inch DLC coated affair with a 1 in 10 twist. The accuracy that I was getting out of the GX4 was alright. With decent ball ammo, it grouped at about 3 or so inches at 25 yards while bagged with a red dot on top. Nothing exceptional, but probably a better shooter could get more out of it. Now, talking about the red dot mounting system, it can accept any Holosun K or EPS carry optic or any Shield RMSC style optic. Now, in the back of the optics cut, it does have the posts for true RMSC style optics, but they are removable if you want to use a Holosun or other style of optic. The way the slide is cut, your optic screws have a ton of extra room as opposed to a Glock where the extractor runs right under the right optic screw most of the time. Overall, the optics cut is well thought out and compatible with most of the popular optics on the market. Inside the slide, we have a dual stage recoil spring that does a good job of soaking up the energy from the slide. The takedown lever is very simple, just turn it to the unlocked position with a screwdriver and the slide pulls straight off, no need to pull the trigger. Inside we have our frame rails, which are a single long piece, and we have our odd looking trigger mechanism. Moving on to the polymer frame, we have nice textured ledges for your thumb to dig into on your support hand. Up front we have a full accessory rail so I can mount a full-size TLR1 light, and I use the Taurus in my Blackhawk holster as sort of a micro duty gun. Our slide catch and release is very small and protected, which is fine for its intended role. Moving down the frame, we have our reversible magazine release, which is also small but appropriate. The bottom 70% or so of the frame is covered in this very nice sandpaper-esque texture. I actually think this handgun does it better than most of the other ones I've used. In the box, there are 3 different sized backstraps if you want it to fit your hands a little better. Mine fit well enough out of the box. The magwell is fine, but has little to no flare or bevel to speak of. I would like to see a little bit more here to make those swaps a little smoother. Speaking of magazines, the GX4 comes with 2 15-round steel mags. They are flush fit, but they use these really tall base plates that stick out from the magwell. Not a big deal, but they are kind of cheating with a 15-round quote-unquote flush fit mag. The mags are tough to get fully loaded, but that's not out of the ordinary, and the GX4 did feed from fully stocked mags, which is good to see. So how is it to shoot? Well, the grip, as we mentioned, is good. There's enough room and texture for my hands to fit and get a good grip on. The memory pad for your thumb is nice, so it could have been really good. Unfortunately, there are 2 things working against it. One is the trigger, which is fine, but nothing special. The other is the beaver tail at the back of the frame, so let's start there. It's very squared off, which for me at least was very uncomfortable to shoot. Now, to be clear, I don't think most people are taking their carry gun and burning through hundreds and hundreds of rounds in about an hour, but it was noticeably more uncomfortable to shoot than similarly sized handguns.
Very uncomfortable to shoot.
Talking about the flat-faced trigger, it's certainly not bad, but it may actually be a step back from their previous models. You have a good bit of take-up against a very strong return spring, and then you hit a very well-defined wall. There's almost no creep, and then the trigger breaks at about 6 to 7 pounds. The reset is a little longer than I would like, but you do get right back on that well-defined wall. The dynamics themselves are good, but the weight is more than most competitive options. Not the worst trigger out there given the money. Something I also noticed is that while trying to shoot this quickly, you would get a false reset where it feels like the trigger has reset in your finger, but it hasn't actually released yet, so you'd actually need to fully release the trigger to get it to reset.
I've got like a false reset on it.
I'm not sure if that's a break-in thing or just a Taurus quality control thing. I did about 6 hours of dry fire before taking the Taurus out for the first time and was a little let down when it came to actually using the thing. I also shot it alongside my actual carry piece, which is still the Canik MC9, and despite that being smaller, the Canik MC9 is better and easier to use in nearly every way. It really does spoil every comparison that I do with handguns at this point. But the Taurus is about $100 cheaper, and that is the driving factor for a lot of these sales. So while I do have complaints, I don't think that the shooting performance is fantastic, but the value is still there. You can find these online for under $300, which is not a stacked market, and when comparing it against that short bus of competition, it's certainly not bad. I actually think it's pretty good, again, given the money. Now, if I were recommending this to someone on a super tight budget, I would say that this might be something to look at. Keep in mind, Taurus has a habit of putting out bad batches and having generally less quality control than other brands that offer their products for just a little bit more money. So if it were me personally and I was using this to defend my life and the life of my loved ones, well, I would probably err on getting something a little bit nicer. Again, it's not terrible for the money, and if you're on a super tight budget, it competes well against other super budget offerings. And again, keep in mind, it's not particularly fun to shoot. It's not very comfortable to shoot, at least for me personally. So it really is relegated to a decent capacity slim carry piece. For that, it fits the build well in terms of size and weight, but I'm just not completely convinced in its performance, at least for me personally. So, with all that out of the way, guys, let me know what you think of the Taurus GX4 Carry in the comments down below. And with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.